I grew up in a really dangerous area. Gunshots, police sirens, and all manner of profanity and everything else. On top of this, my father's health is deteriorating rapidly, and he passes away. It sent me down a spiral of destruction. There wasn't a place for me to go. I didn't have anybody. All doors are closed, and he leaves one exit, one escape, and it is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a middle ground.
There we go. My name is Tawfiq Cotman. I currently live in Buda, Texas. I am a high school teacher. I teach audio video production. We make movies at Cedar Creek High School. And I am a father of 6. Growing up in Providence, Rhode Island was very unique for me because, as my name indicates, there's an Arabic connection and an Islamic connection. So I grew up a Muslim, a Sunni Muslim to be exact. But I also grew up in a really dangerous area. So I would hear my father singing the song to prayer in Arabic on the loudspeaker outside and hear gunshots and police sirens, and all manner of profanity and everything else. So it was a strange dichotomy of worlds that I lived in the slums where the worst things were happening, and in this very strict moral religious framework where my father was my hero, and pleasing him was following this religion. Hip hop as a genre is more of a culture.
I guess I'll start from where I came from, the slums where guns and bundles were handled, running, jumping, dumping at the vandals.
It's rap, and it allows whoever takes that microphone to say whatever they want to. Now, those who lived in my neighborhood were surrounded by the worst types of things, and people from those type neighborhoods, so they would rap about the things that they would see. Typically very adult content.
Brothers and my sisters in my neighborhood's Muslims. When I went to private school, this what I was pushing. Sticking hard questions to the Christian like a cushion. But back at the ranch, it was turmoil, brother. Abby working 3 jobs, beefing with my mother. Cause she left Islam and she trying to take us with her. She was outcast and ridiculed and suffered. Speaking of suffering, I was going through my own.
My father, he worked 3 jobs so that we didn't have to go to the schools in the neighborhood that we lived in because they were that bad. Going to these private schools where I was talking to these kids about the things that I went through on a daily basis, and they're telling me the things they went through, and it was clear we're coming from completely 2 different worlds, but there was a fascination that they had with the world that I came from because it was like a zoo, and the way I felt in that environment was like an animal. But what these adults who were making this music as my child ears could relate was extremely helpful, though also negative because of the kind of things they were saying and the way they were saying it. That's why my father objected. My father, he focused on us as much as he could. His parents were both blind, so he was raised by blind parents in New York City. And he grew up in a really terrible area, and he understood the necessity of a father figure, someone being in your life, because that's going to be what keeps you from the avenues that lead to destruction. So he took that role very seriously. He would take us to the park, help us with homework. We wanted to be outside. He knew the fathers of the kids we were playing with. He made sure that the kids in the neighborhood, he had invested in the lives of those families, so he knew who we were with and where we were going. He just cared as much as he worked, and he modeled for me what a man was who took care of his family and was serious about God. Those are the 2 things that I learned from him. You're serious about your God and you're serious about your family. And that helped me to stay clear of a lot of the stuff that was going on around me. Just like any religion, there are some people who are serious and there's some people who are not. We were very serious. My father was extremely serious. He was a sheikh. He had leadership. He had authority. There was only a fence that separated the masjid from our house. So it was a real big deal. My mother, after coming to these realizations about Islam, wanted to leave the faith. She wanted to leave the neighborhood as well. So she does come to Texas. While she's in Texas, my father has a stroke, and he was no longer able to care for us. So it caused all of us to have to move to San Antonio, to the east side. The irony is that the plan was to move out of dangerous neighborhood into a safer one that would allow for success and safety. However, we ended up going is to the worst neighborhood, arguably in San Antonio, at least in the 90s, which is the east side, and ended up going to arguably the worst high school in San Antonio. So we had bullet holes in the wall and gang fights pretty regularly. It was, Bloods and Crips. I'm so grateful that God gave me a father like he did because of the investment he made in us to not send us to those terrible schools. I mean, look at God's sovereignty, his providence. We move into a terrible neighborhood, and even though things are what they are, within this school, there is a magnet school. There's like a private school within this public school, but it's free. And it's for those kids who are diamonds in the rough. And we had some of the best teachers. They cared about us. They took the time, the effort. I mean, some of the things that they did, just amazing. Amazing that they did for us. And we graduated, and every student who graduated from this program received a $500 scholarship to St. Philip's College, which is the community college in the neighborhood on the east side. On top of this, the neighborhood and the silver lining of the school, my father's health is deteriorating rapidly, and he passes away. My father dies. That was a very pivotal moment in my life, and it sent me down a spiral of destruction. There wasn't a place for me to go. I didn't have any answers. I didn't have anybody. But the streets were there. The streets have always been there. And there's always guys on the block who will talk to you, put an arm around you for the right purpose, so. Doing criminal activity here and there, nothing big, because again, the Lord's kindness, I had that magnet school. I had siblings who I loved, and I started working to take care of them, helping with bills and stuff. So there was always this never getting too far. The Lord's kindness through my father's teaching, my mother's prayers, the destiny he had for me wasn't to end up in a graveyard, at a young age. So he kept me in these parameters that kept me going straight. In spite of the criminal activity that I was getting, and again, it wasn't anything that was major, it was little petty stuff, but I was still able to graduate from high school, and unfortunately, we didn't have enough money to celebrate or even have a home to go to. So my mother came and picked me up the day after my graduation. I slept at my friend's house to party, and she picked me up in a van that was rented, and it was filled with our stuff. And she said, "We're going to your sister's wedding in Boston." I said, "All right." So I didn't know that was gonna be the last time I saw San Antonio for years, and that everything we had was gone. So homelessness was gonna be the next chapter of my life, place to place. My cousin Saeed, he put his arm around me. He loved me, he took care of me. He didn't have to. There was no obligation on him. He didn't owe me any of that. He's only a few years older than me, but he fathered me. So yeah, that's how I was able to survive in that world, because I wasn't equipped for that world. My father kept me safe a lot from that world, and that's a that's a dangerous world, man. Like, it's real cutthroat. And my cousin gave me a crash course in survival out there. And if it wasn't for him, I know the Lord put him there to keep me alive, because it's deadly. And every Sunday, my mother, she would come pick me up no matter what house I was at, no matter what I smelled like, no matter what I just got finished doing. She took me to church and she'd bring me back after. Well, this got into the ears of one of the guys I was living with. Me and my cousin were living with him at the time. And he said, "You going to church?" He's like, "Well, you can't live here, brother." My mother helped me buy a Greyhound ticket, and I had a garbage bag full of my clothes and came to San Antonio. Eventually, I was able to get into college. I didn't have any books, so I just took notes as best as I could. I didn't have any money for books. I just had enough money for the scholarship, just to get there. But I passed. The Lord helped me pass my first semester, and then I found out about financial aid, and I was able to graduate from college. So in college, what I studied initially was filmmaking, because I have a passion for that, but I ended up majoring in psychology and minoring in business, and now I have an education certificate, and I teach high school filmmaking for a living. During this time, I had a Christian friend. His dad stepped in kind of like a father figure at a point, and his son was a very dear, one of my best friends, and he kept bringing me into Christian, sound, solid, doctrinal, biblical Christian environments. He introduced me to a lot of teachers and preachers and musicians. Opened my eyes to Christian rap, which I didn't know. I thought it was whack and corny and weak, and he showed me, no, actually it's pretty good and solid. And so through hanging out with him, it brought me into a lot of spheres, and he was talking to me about things, which ended up leading us to the big moment. All right, we're in Chicago. There's this event that Brandon set up through some of his friends where we can earn some money watching the merchandise table of this speaker. Say less, I'm there, let's do it. So we go, never been to Chicago before, excited, this is cool, merchandise table. And while we're there, there's, of course they always have a musical guest. Well, this musical guest ended up being Cross Movement. Now this was Brandon's favorite group, and he always used to play them for me. So he's like, "Hey man, let's go listen to him." I said, "All right, sure, why not?" So we go, and the music is great. There are songs, I'm familiar with some of them because he's played them for me enough. And I'm like, oh, this is good. But like everything really happened when the music stopped. And that's when William Branch Jr., the ambassador, Deuce, love you, brother. This man began to preach the gospel. And that sounds so simple, but he began to proclaim the good news. He began to tell me about the bad news. And the bad news, I was wrong, and I was guilty. See, in my mind, what I had done since I was a little boy, I had tried to make ways of escape, to get away from the standards that were on me, a way of escape for salvation. What this man began to do is he began to proclaim the good news that you are guilty, that God is perfect, and the struggle of trying to be good enough is right and good because it's showing you your limitations. You can never measure up to the standard of perfection, and you were never meant to. The problem is you're broken. You have a nature that is sinful because of Adam. He's breaking all of this down at a concert, and he's telling me about the nature of sin that I've inherited from Adam, and because of that, there's nothing good that I can do in the sight of God. I am a sinner, and I need need someone else's righteousness. I need a foreign righteousness. I need an alien righteousness. I need a righteousness that can only be given by God. And not only that, but what about the problem? I'm guilty, man. I've lived a terrible life. I've done horrible things. I know I'm wrong. My own guilt haunts me at night. I'm standing here feeling all the weight of this, and here he comes and he talks about the wrath that I do, the wrong that I'm owed, the punishment I'm owed for the things that I've done, and all of these exits that I had created in my mind, that all these doors are closed and he leaves one exit, one escape, and it is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. And he begins to paint the picture of Jesus from the scriptures. The Son of God, the one who made all things, would come to this world that he made, take on flesh for me. I mean, I know me. I know the things that I've done. I know the wrong. I know what I deserve. I wouldn't have had mercy on me, and he did. And this is the God who sees all, who knows all, who has been with me from the very beginning and kept me alive in spite of all the times that I provoked him to his face. And he began to tell me that there's forgiveness, that there is salvation, that there is love. I don't have to keep searching, man. I don't have to keep wandering this world lost and broken and hungry, that there is a feast available. There's a king who welcomes me with open arms. There's a father in heaven who will love me. There's a son who died in my place, who shed his blood, who went to the grave and rose again and ascended and will return to take me home to be with him. Man, this is good news. He told me the bad news, and then he cleaned it up with the good news. He filled my heart with joy, and it prompted me to run up to him after. And I run up to him after, and I'm talking, like, hey, man, I used to be a Muslim. But see, I'm talking about all of those years in high school and all of that when I was lost, wandering this world. What just happened to me, I didn't have words, I didn't understand, and what I needed was a teacher, and he saw that, and so he challenged me beyond this excitement. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get real and see, what are you actually embracing? Because he knew I didn't know anything. I was brand new to this. No matter all the years in church, I didn't teach me anything. I didn't know anything. But I wanted to. And God, he gave me this voracious hunger, this insatiable appetite for his word, because I wanted to know him. This is the God who made me and he loved me. And so this man began to teach me. He's like, do you understand the Trinity? I was like, no. So he begins to tell me what the scriptures say. He said, do you understand there's evidence that you are truly his, and there must be a life that accompanies it, and it's not just believe and live however you. Do you understand all of this? Like, I didn't understand anything. And it was like drinking from a water hose, and he just began to truth. And he said, we're not gonna do this in a weekend, man. Here's my phone number. And let me get yours. And to this day, I could pick up the phone anytime and call that man. He fathered me from afar. I went back to the hotel room and dove immediately into my Bible. It hasn't really stopped since. I had a desire to know God, to know him in his word, and I read it cover to cover, continued, I finished it, started over again. And as I did that, I had desires that I didn't have before. I desired to be around Christians. I wanted to pray to him, which was amazing. I begin this new life as a believer, and I am walking by faith in him, and he's bringing me into all kinds of things. And it's amazing because he changed me without changing me, okay? So I'm still me, like Jesus said, whoever would save his life must lose it, right? You often think following Christ means you stop being who you are, but truthfully, he made us, he knows who we are, and he makes us the truest version of ourselves. Hip hop is a part of me, it's always been. You could do this too. You could use the same gift that was used to open your eyes to open the eyes of others. You can take the stories that are on the street that you grew up around and you can put it in a manner that has hope. You can actually bring light to the darkness instead of just mentioning that we're in the dark. And that changed everything for me. Got to travel the world doing missionary work. The Lord took me to Haiti, Dominican Republic, Mexico, got to go to India, to Iraq, Lebanon, Mexico many times. Street evangelism, door to door. We've gone to the homeless, we've gone to the prisons, we've gone to schools, we've done stuff in neighborhoods, corner. We had a whole summer where we were doing Walmart parking lots, both preaching and rapping, and doing good to the neighbors, going to abortion clinics, telling women you don't have to murder your baby. There's mercy, there's forgiveness for you if you have. Just pointing them to the love of Christ, to truth, to freedom. Now, I look back at my life and I see the search. I had been on a search for a father my whole life. When I had my father there, he fulfilled that role, and yet there was still something, even when I had him, that wasn't fulfilled. Once he was taken, I looked place to place. On the street corner, I found a father. In the school with a teacher, I found a father. Even in the bad church, father figures were there, some bad, some good. Ultimately longing, leading me one to another to find the ultimate one. There, even as I'm hearing the gospel preach, here's another father figure that I don't know yet is going to be in my life for the next 20 years, who's telling me about the ultimate father who made us and calls us to himself through his son. So that is what I have come to realize, and I find so much joy in that, the fulfillment that God, as a Trinity, chooses the title for himself, Father, and then shares that title with me. What an amazing thing. What else but for me to model, create in the image of God, to model the fatherhood that he has given to me. Through my life, through this story, he has fathered me. He's loved me. He's provided for me. He's cared for me. He's protected me all along. These other men, they were just the appetizer for the main course. One of the benefits, the joy on top of everything is that I get to be a father to these 6 souls. Even though my father was taken from me at an early age, and most of my life I didn't have my father there, I get to be that for them in all those areas when I needed them, I missed them. Now I get to be for them what was lacking in my life. And I'm able to do that not just for my own children, but as a teacher, with people I run into. This need for fathering, I find it everywhere, and I believe that it is intrinsically in us. God put it there because we long for him. Like it says in Acts that, he is not far from each one of us. So we're feeling our way towards him, and we ultimately long for the Father in heaven. And that's what we're searching for.
The wrath of God, unable to please, move standards up too high. The only hope I had was a grab on the feet of the God who was beat, weak and hung upon a tree. And trust in him for my soul. Walk in the light, once simply unstable, full of hatred, full of strife. Now I'm living for the King. I'm committed to a wife. I was once dead in sins, but he raised me to life. I've been changed. What I used to be is no longer me. Now I've been raised from the grave. Jesus changed me. Yes, what I used to be is no longer me. Now I've been raised from the grave. Jesus changed me. Yeah, it's for your glory, Lord. Yeah, it's for your glory, Lord. Yeah, everything I went through is for your glory, Lord. It's for his glory, y'all. Yeah, it's for his glory, y'all. Yeah, and everything you going through is for his glory. Change me.
10 years of sharing the peace of Christ. Shalom World, God's own channel.